This is Trend Following Radio, where great thinking comes alive. Nobel Prize winners, legendary traders, best-selling authors, and the pros that know what drive us irrational human beings. I am your host, MICHAEL COVEL. Not filtered, raw, honest. That's my passion. I did not go back today to count how many times my guest today has appeared on this show. I know that it's more than 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm pretty sure. This is either 5 or 6, would be my best guess. I'm not being lazy. There's 750 plus episodes. I can't count anymore. But this guest is important to me. He goes back to the very beginning, and he helps to spread the message of good trading. My guest today is Steve Burns, a very prolific author in the trading space. Steve has probably done one of the most exceptional jobs from a starting stop of nothing to building a huge following. And in turn, helping very, very, very new beginning traders to see some of the light, to hopefully see the world of markets and trading in a better way. I enjoy Steve's down-home Southern take on things. A very practical, pragmatic, easygoing view. And as I just mentioned, going back in time to 2013, Steve has been a regular on this show. And I hope into the future, Steve continues to come on and give that great wisdom for all traders. Let's jump right into the conversation with Steve Burns. Let me take you back in time. I know some of the books that you do are more shorter version books, but for sake of discussion, how many books have you written so far?
I think it's about 20. I've actually lost count.
When do you sleep?
I just, weird how I transferred into reading to writing, because I read like 1,000 nonfiction books. And then I got to the point, well, hell, I need to be writing books if I'm going to read this much. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Yeah, about 20.
Wow. You have no desire to slow that process down or merge it into something else, or?
Actually, I think I'm going to get away from that and really just focus on my social media presence.
Let me take it back in time, though. When was the first book?
Oh, gosh. It was like I went to a little guy that was publishing books. 2011? A guy approached me because I read so many books about Nicholas Darvis that he said, you should write a book about it, about your own experience. And that's where it started. I believe it was 2011.
So that was the motivation. It was somebody else coming to you.
Yeah. And the funny, my current wife, Holly, when we got together, she's like, why are you letting somebody else publish your books? We could self-publish and just do it and keep all the money and lower the price and increase your volume. And I'm like, what? She's really the catalyst of doing the new lower price, smaller book model.
It's an interesting path because I've kind of gone the opposite way, and I have debates about it all the time because especially some of my earlier books, the publisher's taking like 85, 90%.
Yeah, that was her. Like, she wanted to cut the price off the actual price itself, and then I just increase the volume and keep the same royalty, because she was telling me, let's just publish books for $2.99. I was like, $2.99? That's not even worth the trouble. She's like, how much you make on your $19.99? I said, well, $2 royalty. She said, well, that's what you'll make in the $2.99, but your volume will be 10 times bigger.
There is some beautiful logic to that, isn't there?
Yeah, well, I was arguing with her. I'm like, well, crap. Well, let's see what happens. And those 3 books that we first did are still doing really well.
What's so funny about that when you say that is even myself, someone who's written books, I hear it and I think, well, why don't you just make the book $2.99? And the same reaction you have. But the reality is anyone that's published a book knows the truth to that wisdom. However odd it might sound, having a book priced at $3, there's a lot of wisdom to that.
Especially with Kindle really makes it possible, because we're just selling information. I think we're really selling time. So a lot of these books, people are like, well, heck, all that's on the internet. Well, but I saved you 10 hours. If you think what I have is on the internet, you're buying time, depending on the quality and the depth of the book. But some of the stuff, they're not going to figure that out online themselves.
Let's keep it there for a second. I think that is exactly what people are buying. They're buying time. And I mentioned the other day on my Facebook, and I think you posted as well, that my first book I thought was really, and I was thinking about this in hindsight, was my stab at the Feynman technique. Learn something, master it, figure it out, share it with others. And I'm kind of paraphrasing a little bit there, but that is exactly what you're talking about. And so many people think they can go online and just find something, and they might just find something, but they're going to find 10 other things that are competing with it. How do they know that it's true? Or how do they have a reasonable idea that it's true? Look, you and I might be false, but at least we're raising the bar on the research a little bit.
What's the source? That's another thing. That's why I've relied so heavily on you and Swager's researches. And, the source I get information from, I try to cull it from actual viable sources of the guys that made the money, the guys that researched it, the books that are the most esteemed in the industry. I have research and quality for somebody, so I don't have to go search around the world for it.
That's a process for you, though, because now that you've raised your profile, before we go any further, why don't you kind of outline the profile? You've been at this, your online world for, as you mentioned, gosh, you're going to be approaching a decade in here now soon. But talk about your social media presence. And I mean, I don't follow the numbers all the time, but I know they're a lot bigger than mine, at least the stated ones. My podcast gets a lot of listens, but when I look at your social media presence, you're really driving, especially Twitter, and you might want to mention Instagram too, but speak to the numbers, and then let's talk about how those numbers have happened.
Yeah, I think Twitter now, I think it's 155,000 right now followers on Twitter. And then on Instagram, I think it's 67,000. It's interesting. It's one of those weird things, like in the .com, the tech era, I really saw the importance of trading in the trends of the tech stocks for that decade. And I saw that, and I was able to benefit from that tremendously. And then when I saw social media start, Twitter and Facebook, and now Instagram, I thought, my gosh, this gives you an opportunity to communicate with the world and to have an audience that can listen to find the people that are in your tribe of what you would like to do and communicate with them. So I saw an opportunity there to participate in the world's conversation. That it's funny how it started. I was just using it as almost a stream of consciousness, tweeting out things as I thought them. And oddly enough, it all started with me following you on Facebook.
Was I doing anything on there?
The way I really got started was, oddly enough, my children told me about my ex-wife having connected with her high school friends on Facebook. And I thought, that's odd. I think that was 2010, maybe 2011. And I don't know, it's actually 2009 because I've been on Facebook 10 years now. I set up my thing to connect, and I connected to people that I went to high school with initially, but then all the people that I had the emails for gave me an option to connect. And you were one of those because, I had reviewed some of your books, and we'd communicated after me being a book reviewer on Amazon for you. So I had your email. So I thought, oh, cool, I can connect with MICHAEL Covevel. And then I started seeing how you were using Facebook to connect with other traders, and your fans were following you, and a lot of traders were communicating, and y'all were having discussions. I thought, this is amazing, man, to be able to read your book and then to communicate with the author of Trend Following, and then to have all the other people that are in the same sector on there commenting and talking. And I saw what you were doing with conversations and discussion still to this day. You were really my biggest inspiration of getting on social media.
Let me talk about that, because I can safely say you've well past where I've gone, because I mean, it's a lot of work. And I think everyone goes through their own little up and down path of life and how much time they want to commit to social media. And right now you are at the upper 1%, the upper 0.001% of time commitment, because there is no way you get to 150,000 or 125,000 Twitter followers and 67 Instagram followers. You don't get there without spending a lot of your time. I mean, how is this happening?
I've got a pretty cool system for it. I wake up and I do what comes naturally. For years it was, first I started out trading and trend following, and that came naturally, and it got to be a pretty automated process. And then I went into deeply reading books for 1,000 nonfiction books. So I was an avid reader for 20 years and consuming everything. Then I thought, hey, I need to start writing books. So I started writing books. Now it's to a place where the next logical step is actual social media, where I'm just sharing what I know and communicating and getting involved with other people's comments and seeing what's out there. It's like, it's interesting. It expands what you know, expands what you learn. I learn as much from people that follow me as they learn from me. It's pretty incredible. Especially I can follow up you and a lot of my favorite trading authors, my favorite traders, even money managers, even a lot of market wizards are on Twitter now and on social media. So it's really just amazing to get in there and share and learn and communicate and see what people are interested in.
Let's take it to Instagram, for example. When did you launch Instagram, your Instagram?
I think it was 4 or 5 years ago.
Why does it grow? What is your process? How many posts a day are you doing?
I did about 3 for a while, and then I went to 6. The most interesting, helpful things I find every day, I enjoy sharing. It's funny. It's like when I started Amazon book reviews, I was one of the top Amazon book reviewers. At one time, I was 140th most helpful book reviewer on Amazon, and I created those book reviews for my own reference, like I was creating my own notes. It's funny. That's how I did that. And now I've done this mainly for my own notes. I like to go back whenever I want to save something. I'll put it on my personal Facebook, or I'll trading stuff. I'll tweet it, or Instagram. I'll save images I want to save to go back to. It's almost like I'm creating my own library of information is what I'm primarily doing, the things I find most interesting each day. And it's amazing I get to share it and people like it.
I kind of view it the same way. I look at Facebook, for example, almost like a diary. I don't necessarily write things that I think people will like or whatever. I write what I like, and then if they are interested, they stay with me, that kind of thing.
When I find something I love online, I like to surf the web for about an hour a day, and everything I find that I enjoy, or I'm doing social media, I think, man, I want to save that. That's really where a lot of my information comes from.
Before I jump into some trading questions, I love peppering you on this social media stuff. I think other people will find this interesting too. So 4 or 5 years at Instagram, are there any early experiences that led you to see how it was going to unfold, or were you already confident based on how Twitter had unfolded? I've had people tell me, hey, don't waste your time on Instagram. That makes no sense. Who are you connecting with? Who's on there? But on the flip side, I now notice there are some people who I used to hear from on Facebook or see on Facebook that I never hear from. But the moment I post something on Instagram, I hear from them.
And I didn't get Instagram at first because it's only images. I didn't really get it. But the actual, when you go through the Explorer option, it'll show you everything you're interested in. It's one of the most addictive social media sites I've seen. And I didn't get it at first. I got Twitter and I got Facebook immediately. I didn't get Instagram. It took me a couple years to really get going on it, to understand. But it's interesting that there's tribes of traders on every social media platform. But like you said, there's people I see, like there's my Facebook friend people. There's people, like you said, on Instagram. And then there's people that are only on Twitter. And by me having a platform with all the different social media, I get to capture all of them, but it's a different type. Each one's a different type of thing. I think Facebook's more personalized, Twitter's more texting with the world, and Instagram's more sharing images and pictures.
Has your process for increasing your tribes in social media, has your process involved any other process other than producing constant content every day? Like, are you specifically doing something to attract people? Or is it the word spreads, people know this guy Steve is just giving lots of content every day very consistently?
Yeah, I think the consistency is the biggest thing, like you said, but also I see what people are interested in. If I see people are interested in financial freedom, I'll do a poll on Twitter. I'll say, what would you like me to tweet about more? Investing, trading, financial freedom, or financial independence, what have you. I'll have little polls, and then they'll tell me, hey, financial freedom. A lot of people are trading, trying to achieve financial freedom, so that's their ultimate goal. So they're just as interested in that as they are in trading itself. So I will pivot and give them more information about that.
Well, that's an interesting point there too, is the quandary that so many authors or people that are providing content will always have. Do I give people what they need, or do I give people what they want? If you give them only what they want, which I know is not what you do, if you give somebody only what they want, I don't know what we're left with, because most people want crazy stuff like easy money, millions of dollars overnight, right?
I've had no trouble. I give them what I want to give them. So I will never give them something I do not believe in. I'll never be in a Lamborghini. I'll never be in a get rich quick schemes. I'll never be down that, because, I will never show anything or do anything that I do not completely believe in. That's my filter.
Hold on. I thought I saw you in a Speedo with 2 models in a Lamborghini somewhere. That wasn't you? No?
Yes, keep it private, don't we? That's one that's always amazed me, of these kids that do that kind of thing. I would be afraid to start telling net worths and to showing trading accounts and cash. That just seems so stupid from just a safety standpoint. If you really did have all that, why in the world would you tell people and put yourself at risk?
Well, I think, as you just say, if you really have all that, I mean, that's the issue right there. And look, there are a lot of people out there that have built tremendous operations off that, what you just described, showing that I'm large, showing that I'm big. And that seems to attract, obviously, a certain audience. of people that just want to see the flash, and that makes them feel like, well, that person's legit, versus a person like you or myself who wants to lead with logic, who wants to lead with wisdom and insights and content, but not that kind of content.
It's a jungle out there, and it gives financial Twitter and financial social media a bad name.
Well, let's speak to that for a second. Let's take it to Twitter. How do you view Twitter today? I'll be perfectly honest. I find it very hard. You, though, are very consistent in the sense that you're not really getting into a daily comment about whatever it is, the daily whatever. But I know some very, very famous, very accomplished, very wealthy people who literally are in the ring every day giving their opinion about something. At some point in time, that seems really tiring to try and take in all that information. Whereas I know what I always like about seeing about your stuff is it might not be Steve's daily opinion for the day, but you're giving me something, an anecdote or a piece of wisdom or a famous line from a trader. And it just kind of inspires you for the moment. I find that much more interesting than listening to all of these people with these great resumes who have something to say every day. And like, no one has something to say every day.
Yes, what they need to do is always give their opinion. I think that all those trading and investing and are all in their own process. Warren Buffett has a completely different investing system than a day trader and a trend following market wizard. They all have different processes. I don't see the value in someone going heavy in their own opinions and sharing it every single day. I much prefer evergreen content that applies to everyone. Everybody can take a piece of wisdom every day, but not everyone needs to know someone's opinion on gold or the VIX going up every day.
If I like to comment on something every now and again, it's if I see hypocrisy. If I see hypocrisy, I like to point it out, and that's it. But I can't fix it. I'm not going to sway people, and my opinion is about worth only so much, right?
I think it's an incredible waste of time and energy and effort to get in the mix with all that.
I know that Twitter and a much bigger conversation has been having some censorship issues that have come along. So has Facebook. How do you perceive the state of Twitter and social media today when it comes to something like censorship?
All the shadow banning that they're having, it looks like there's a liberal bent on Twitter itself from everything I've heard and seen. I don't see a lot of it. I mean, from what I see, it's a lot of open, honest communication overall. I guess from the perspective of the platform itself, I think James Clear had a great tweet where he said being on Twitter is like having a conversation in a restaurant with the most interesting people in the world while people you like the least are in the next table yelling at you the entire time. The level of negativity and nastiness and trolling is incredible, even if it's 1 in 100 people. It's the most bizarre mixture of following some of my favorite people on earth and then also being attacked by some of the nastiest people on earth. It's just very strange mix because you can't really control your tweet. People can comment and go on your tweet and connect to you, and you can't get them off your tweet. You can delete them on Facebook and Instagram, but Twitter is wide open for everybody. You have to, even blocking them, they just have another account.
Now, you seem like a much nicer guy than me, and occasionally, and I've mellowed over time some, but do you get your share of trolls?
Oh, yeah, I get trolled, some good trolls every single day, at least a few every day. It's just the most nonsensical foolishness. I love what Ty Lopez, this other guy, I know he's pretty big on social media. He actually took a troll live on Facebook Live. I think he went YouTube Live, Facebook Live, and actually had a conversation with the troll and put it on YouTube. I think that was the most educational thing to show you cannot change their mind. They do not realize how wrong they are or how bizarre they are or how big of a negative loser in most cases they are. There's no convincing them otherwise, so it's a complete waste of time and energy.
This might sound really crazy, but I've spent a lot of time in the last 6-7 years outside of the States. And I think one of the things that I've really come to love from a noise prevention standpoint is not being able to understand the language that most people are speaking. It's actually quite a joy. It eliminates so much nonsense that you don't have to pay attention or hear it.
Yeah, it's a great filter. You just don't know what they're
what they're saying, right? Are they calling me a name or are they saying they love me? I don't know. I kind of quite enjoy that.
I like that. I wish I could turn my Twitter to a different language for a day.
That'd be a great feature. When you see somebody who you don't want to know that you blocked them or muted them or whatever, you just change their language to Chinese.
Problem solved.
It's problem solved. If Mr. Twitter is listening, that'd be a great feature. Bigger picture question, I was kind of deviating. How do you see something like Twitter right now? Because you've been on it for a while, you've built a big following. Do you see it getting better for your purposes? Do you see it topping out? Explain your views of Twitter when you sit around with your wife and you guys are discussing business.
I think right now it is the best communication platform in the world because you can reach out and connect with anybody. I mean, if you want to have a conversation about the Super Bowl, you can go on the Super Bowl hashtag during the Super Bowl and actually see it. A lot of times I get more entertainment now on Twitter, watching live streaming, for whatever it is. Politics was another great funny one during the 2016 presidential election. It's actually a way to communicate with the world. I mean, what a godsend to be able to, what would an entrepreneur want? What would a trader want? Hey, let's build a worldwide free platform. You can communicate with everybody on it in the entire world and even categorize your topic area. I mean, that's just I think right now it is the most powerful platform. I think Instagram is coming up, is going to be the top social media platform soon. I think its growth is incredibly exponential right now.
More so than Twitter?
Yeah, I'm getting way more growth and interactions on Instagram than I get on Twitter. For a engagement standpoint, still have a bigger reach with Twitter, but Instagram is gaining on it fast, which, like you said, it's really odd that so many traders are on there when it's only pictures and images.
Do you have a feeling of the demographic difference between Twitter and Instagram?
Instagram is younger than Twitter. Twitter's definitely for an older demographic. Instagram's for a younger. I think, Pinterest is more for females. And I think Facebook is aging too. All the younger people are leaving Facebook in favor for Instagram.
Okay, so if anybody contacts you or contacts me that you just made a statement, Pinterest is more for females, I'm sure that just caused some people in the audience, not my audience, to have a meltdown that Steve said something that could possibly be never a year or two or three ago would this have ever been controversial, but to say that a social media platform is mostly for females could cause a revolt. Then people are picketing your house overnight. You know that, right?
Yeah, and never mind the 80%. I think it's the demographics are 80% women, but do not forget the facts, forget the numbers. That is meaningless.
Let me take you to something that I believe I saw on your Twitter. I think you said you've not watched CNBC since 2009. Is that right? You've not watched since 2009?
That is correct. I do have the CNBC app for informational purpose for just quotes and news, but that's it.
Let's go back in time because it's been a long time. So 2008, 2009, obviously the crisis, the market low was March of 2009, at least the stock market, U.S. stock market indices, the low was 2009, March. What caused you to say, this is it, I don't want any more Kramer, Kernan, Faber, and all the other names that come on and say what they say?
I had cash signals in 2008 for the stock market. I didn't go short in 2008. My primary accounts, I went to cash, and I was just watching CNBC. I found it entertaining in 2008 with all the drama and crashes and all the endless trying to tell you to buy the bottom all through 2008. And then 2009, I got some buy signals around March and April finally. And I just thought, this is just too much noise and racket. It adds no value to my life. I mean, if I want to look at news or look at a quote, I can use the app. So I did leave it completely and didn't look back 2009 because there's not anything helpful on it for an actual quantified trader.
As we keep it at 2009, I relate to it because I stopped there too. I let go. I did not continue. It didn't really strike me until I saw your line about it. I was like, gosh, I did the same thing. And I wonder how many people did do the same thing. In some ways, I'm watching now after we just watched, and I'm not trying to go political here, but after we just watched a couple of years of politics in America where there were all kinds of accusations and then a final kind of quote report came out. And then people said, well, some of this stuff didn't really happen. And I've actually seen in the reporting that the viewership has dropped at many channels because there is no more excitement. So it's like, I think if people can feel something like the 2008, 2009 market drama or the most recent couple years in American politics, they stay tuned in to see what's going to happen. But when the jig is up, then everyone's kind of like, oh, okay, this is over. This is not worth my time.
2008, I was like watching SportsCenter. It was entertaining, but the biggest thing that destroyed its brand for me was like calling to buy the bottom all through 2008, endlessly, and all through 2009, then finally capitulating and say, oh, if the world's going to end near the bottom, then I think one financial pundit, I will not mention his name, saying to buy Lehman Brothers, everything was fine. And to say everything's fine right at the beginning of the collapse, it's like that just loses all credibility completely. It's one thing to give out a system or a signal or a process, another thing to tell people to buy a bottom that's not 6-7 months away, or tell someone to put money in the banks that are about to collapse to zero when a trend is obviously down.
Tell you where I love to go. I love to go down the path of market conversations that are wrong. In my world, people will come to me all the time, they email me. The primary things that I hear from people that really cause me to pause, people will text me and you can tell they're brand new and they want to focus on an hourly bar. Very, very difficult to do unless you're Toby Crable, right? Or they want to focus on FX only, or they've heard about support and resistance without any detail behind what support and resistance is, just this kind of this nebulous, amorphous kind of phrase that doesn't have any concrete terminology to it. So what are the things that you hear though? When you watch new traders and you see where they stumble and where they fall, where are some of the areas that you immediately kind of want to push people away from thinking about?
The biggest thing is always, what do I think about some chart? And I always tell them, you don't need somebody's opinion about a chart. You need a quantified trading system with an edge that creates big wins and small losses systematically. And that makes their heads explode. They cannot even wrap their brain around that. They think it's something about opinions.
Now you raise a good point, though. Just for example, on the chart, we both know the answer, but why is it that so many people think that you are going to have an opinion about the chart?
Probably because the vast majority of the financial pundits do. Like there's financial pundits on CNBC, they'll always have an opinion about every chart all the time, always something, always whatever they say, their 2 cents or whatever it is. That's almost negligent and just a dangerous thing to even do, to tell somebody something, because things can change so rapidly. Even if they have some fundamental picture, that's a long pathway to an entry to exiting with profits, or even knowing when to get out with a loss. It's just way too complex for a blurb.
I always wonder when the people come on, whoever it is, and they have an opinion about a chart, as you note, you never hear from them on the backside. Usually it's like, hey, here's this entry, here's something you must do, but they're never really around to either tell you how that either panned out or to tell you when to get out.
That's the thing about a tip. If somebody tells you, Bitcoin's a great thing to buy when it's at 2,000 or 3,000 or whatever, they don't tell you, when do you stop out if it doesn't work out, or when do you lock in profits? It's a whole nother topic area. All the Bitcoin, crypto, super bulls, hodl people that want to hold forever gave back a lot of open profits, even if they were lucky enough to get in.
It was just one of those weird things where a certain new demographic post the financial crisis had their first opportunity to trade. It was one of the biggest trends in the history of mankind. They all got on board, a lot of that just timing and luck and as of age, but had absolutely no strategy other than to go up.
That's one thing I learned the hard way in the dot-com era, buying and holding into tech stocks and dot-coms and letting the winners really run. My strength of letting winners run so hard was also my biggest weakness from March 2000 on, as the dot-com slowly melted down, because I did not have the best viable trailing stops or exit strategies. And my strength became my weakness.
That's a weird time to try and explain to people today. If somebody is in their 20s or even early 30s today, trying to explain the enthusiasm that took place during the dot-com era, I think it makes the Bitcoin enthusiasm look like a walk in the park, because back then it could be anything. You walk outside, you're like, oh, it's a leaf, leaf.com, right? Is that crazy?
Yeah, you got absolutely nuts there. And it's like, now I don't know what they're even valuing. I still don't understand they're trying to have any kind of a value to the cryptos by usability. It's the same thing back then with .coms was eyeballs. How do you value this company? Eyeballs. How many eyeballs can you get? You can trade the trend in price just like Bitcoin as far as it'll go, but you have to have a strategy for locking in those profits.
Do you have any crypto use that you know of in your life that you're using crypto for a function? I don't have anything that I know about.
It's like solving a problem that doesn't exist. I know Bitcoin's great, but so is PayPal for most purposes. And PayPal doesn't run up to $14,000 to have to use it. I cannot wrap my brain around. their blockchain technology to do things off the grid and off of the, do things in their ledger that's private. I just do not understand from just a common sense usability process. It's just not there yet.
I get it conceptually what they're talking about. I've had people talk to me in depth about the benefits, but the issue becomes, as you say, usability in an application. So when does the crypto technology become something useful for all of us that we can apply in our daily lives? And as you make the point with PayPal, okay, payments. Okay, crypto payments. Okay, crypto needs to kill off PayPal so they can take over PayPal's business. Well, guess what? PayPal doesn't want to give up the throne. That was the weird thing about the crypto, is that it seemed like the proponents really just thought that everyone was going to roll over and say, oh, we're PayPal. We don't have any kind of crypto stuff. So, okay, our business is over. You guys can have our business. That's the weird thing that seemed to happen.
And the volatility, there's no currency in mankind that I'm aware of that ever fluctuated by, tens of thousands of percent in a matter of years. That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. That's not how currencies operate in any definition of a currency. First of all, it had to have stability and hold value. And then the other people say, oh, it's a hedge against inflation. Not if you bought in at $14,000, $15,000, $16,000 for Bitcoin, it went down to $4,000. That's not a hedge for anything. That's a crash.
It's really hard to see with that kind of price volatility, a store of value as a currency. It's really difficult to see how that works. Now, on the flip side, if one thinks that crypto is going to give you this kind of surprise benefit, kind of this black swan benefit, okay, I guess, but they sold us on the store of value. They sold us on the currency, and it just has not been that.
No, it just has not lived up. Just like you said, the functionality alone, if you be able to easily operate an app, let's say PayPal, be as easy as PayPal to operate, but how many people use it is going to be the key to all that.
I want to kind of move you away from crypto for a second, but on the strategy side of things, I know that you are more of a price-based guy, more of a quant systematic thinking guy. I know you will have some fundamental information that will roll around in your world, but how do new traders that have never heard about price-based trading, what are some of the common misconceptions or the common complaints when they come into your world and they see Steve talking about price-based trading? What are some of the common initial confusions that new people have?
The large majority of people think you cannot trade unless you can predict. You have to have an opinion about what's going to happen next, and you have to be able to predict what's going to happen next in a non-existent future. They cannot wrap their brain around letting price make their decisions. If you enter at $100 because it broke out of a range and your stop loss is $97 a share, and you are letting a trailing stop run, like maybe a 5-day exponential moving average, be your trailing stop to let the winner run. They moving from making their own decisions based on their opinions to letting price make their decisions for them is mind-blowing for them.
I can think back to probably when I saw it for the first time, and I'm guessing, 1994 would be the first time that I caught wind of the idea that what Warren Buffett is doing is great, it's fantastic, but then there's something else.
I think the biggest thing I realized, I love watching Warren Buffett talk in his world. It's investors look for cash flowing businesses that are going to compound their growth, while traders look for cash flowing trading systems that's going to compound their capital. I think that's the big difference with our traders versus investors.
I was thinking about Buffett the other day, and I was thinking one of the great things that he did in the fall of 2008. And then I was thinking of trend following performance in the fall of 2008. So trend following performance was fantastic in the fall of 2008. Also in the fall of 2008, Buffett performance was some of the worst. But what did he do? So the trend followers caught the surprise and they make all this money in the fall of 2008. Buffett is losing all this money, but Buffett had a plan also that when the surprise hit and the bottom hit, he had more cash than anyone. And so he bought in at the bottom. It's just kind of a mirror image of trend following. They're actually conceptually, not operationally, conceptually, they're trying to capture the same damn thing in a different way. They're both trying to capture the surprise.
Yeah, I was thinking that the other day too, and another aspect of that where Warren Buffett did step in and he bought Goldman Sachs, $80 or $70 a share. And like you said, nailed all those things. And everybody think, oh my gosh, he's a genius. And of course, it came back to highs again in the stock market and he killed it. But I thought people never think, what was his drawdown during 2008? Especially with Wells Fargo exposure, they don't ever consider Warren Buffett has had, like you said, similar to some trend followers. He did have a 50% plus drawdown, I think, in the late 70s.
No, he's had more than 50%, even more recently. I don't remember the exact dates, but he's had several in his career.
Nobody ever thinks about he also has to go through the portfolio heat himself. That's another side of his long-term performance.
It's a really interesting thing, and I don't think anyone's really written about this clearly, and Buffett is just a one-off example. You could take a handful of famed trend-following traders, and they could be considered a one-off example. But I really think that 2008 time period is interesting. They are both trying to capture surprise. One was capturing surprise before they knew anything. The other was ready to capture the surprise after it happened.
That's a great way of putting it. To get in, I started getting back in long positions in 2009, sort of like, buying the inverse trend coming back out of the lows when the new inverse trend started, just like the recent V bottom. I bought in on not the whole V bottom, but on the way back up in that time frame. So everybody's got their own, like you said, catching their piece of it.
Let me take you to systematic versus discretion. I find even traders who wrap their arms around the idea of a price-based system, something that's systematic, I find there are so many people that think that they have some extra wisdom that can go on top of a pure price-based system that will then improve it. In reality, all they're doing is taking the price-based system and throwing a monkey wrench into it and kind of messing it up.
It's funny how the edge is in the system itself, and the more you try to tweak that edge, the more you diminish it whenever you have it. If you backtest something, a crossover system works, and you try to tweak it to want to lock in profits early, then you'll miss the rest of the upside. Or if you stop out too early, then you'll miss the reversal back. It's like you said, that if you backtest something, anytime you adjust or try to change it, you're diminishing the original edge that was created by the backtest itself.
Well, ego's funny. We all want to think we're smart. We all think we bring something extra to the table. When we have this system for the first time, we then think, well, gosh, that looks really good, but I don't like that drawdown. So since I know I'm smart, I can just eliminate the drawdown because I'm smart.
I mean, that's one thing that's funny is there's actually an edge in the ability to follow a mechanical trading system. That itself is an edge. And it's actually a weakness to defer from your original back test.
We talk about drawdown in the trend following way or a price-based way. But as you just mentioned a moment ago, Buffett has drawdowns. So here's what I find so funny about when people approach this. Everyone can look at the data. The data's all out there. So if Bill Dunn has had 50% plus drawdowns and Warren Buffett has had 50% plus drawdowns, and they've both made a lot of money, then why do you think you, at brand new to this, are going to eliminate it? Whereas what I would think people, what they would really want to do is say to themselves, why? Why have two really smart guys had drawdowns, and why do they continue to have drawdowns? And why can't they fix it? Versus, I'm brand new and I know I can fix it. I know I can fix it. I know I can do more than those two guys.
It's just math a lot of times. A lot of things people, like, well, that isn't making sense. Why does the crossover signal work? But it's just math. If you're going to have an uptrend, you got to have that crossover on that time frame for that trend to happen. And the more you have to have the risk to get the reward. If you're going to shoot for any kind of decent return, 20, 30% a year, you're going to have, 20, 30, 50% drawdowns at some point. Just mathematically, regardless of your win percent, you will have a losing streak.
But Steve, why do I have to do a crossover that's lagging? Why can't I find a leading indicator? Why can't I find a leading indicator that gets me to the new place before I wait and give back all that profit? Why do I have to do that, Steve?
Yes, my favorite. Somebody in the group said that, moving average or lagging indicators. Like, oh, good. Show me a indicator from the future. Show me a leading indicator. That's what I would love to see that, because that would be amazing.
Like you said, the data is out there, and it's like for people that want to go study, you don't have to do this as much now, but back in the day, the secret elixir for me was pulling from the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. I could pull disclosure documents for all these traders, and I could go back decades and I could pull their disclosure documents and I could look at all this performance. And I thought, well, this is really valuable information, because if this is what all these smart people have been doing for decades, and this is the performance they've received, why am I going to receive something entirely different?
people think they're the magical person, like you said, and they think they're gonna win every time. That's my personal favorite. You're gonna win every time. How did you lose money? Aren't you doing this seriously, or aren't you good at this? 50% win rates are great in the market. It's the big wins and the small losses that really make the magic happen.
Hey, let me ask you to be a little self-reflective for a moment. Why do you think that people trust you?
I don't do any of the normal chicanery of trying to brag or show whatever the silliness of showing money or making ridiculous promises. I keep it real, talking about the risk management and psychology as much or more than anything else. And you don't see that from people that aren't serious. I don't have ridiculous prices for some of these programs. These fly-by-night people are doing these crazy things where they try to suck people into these expensive things and programs. And I think my focus on the actual structure of trading really helps me versus trying to push penny stocks or binary options or a lot of the other garbage that drifts around in social media.
It's a minefield out there. It really is. And look, even in your world, I know you've got like one Facebook forum that I see quite a bit. I will see a lot of people that will come in there, and I'm sure you have to excommunicate people every now and again. People will show up and they'll be preaching all this crazy stuff, and I know you eventually have to let people move on. You have to block them, so to speak.
I took it public recently. It was a private group for so many years, and I actually went public to see bring in more people that were interested and find some great people. But like you said, it's a lot of filtering in social media. I think one of the greatest skills you can have in 2019 is the ability to filter.
Adding to that filtering process, one thing that I've really noticed, I've noticed it since my inception, which is, I thought it was fascinating in the first couple years of my business. I had clients in 70 countries. But when I say that to a guy like you, you're like, yeah, big deal. I see this all the time myself. You see it too. But unless people are producing content online and are working with people around the world on a subject like the markets, you don't necessarily understand how connected things are. Why don't you speak to the interest level of other countries? What other countries have really started to catch on to what you do? I've noticed that India has become huge.
For a while, I had more traffic to my website from India than from the US on a percentage basis for a while. It has slacked off somewhat. And the books I sell in India on Amazon India are the second highest a lot of times. So India rising is definitely going on. They're hungry. They are highly educated. They work hard. Very nice people. It's pretty incredible. I got a lot of Indian friends on social media.
Those are just your books for India are just English based, right?
Yeah. That's another thing. I guess the majority of them are English. I think some do have Hindi as a second language. Primarily, they're all English speaking and very good at English and math. There usually been some guest posts where I have to edit their English a little bit, but their math is always top notch.
The one country I'm curious about your penetration, what is your feedback on China?
It's weird. Every now and then, I think I'm on their firewall. I think I'm blocked from China. But whenever it's come down and I'll actually be ranked in China, it's explosive. But it'll only show me for a day. I think I'm blocked in China.
You have no Chinese translations yet?
I think Hungarian and Spanish are my two books I've had translated so far.
Now I'm jealous. I don't have a Spanish translation yet. I've got like 13 translations, but I don't have a Spanish one. I don't have any idea why.
Really?
No,
that's surprising.
I have no idea why. So let me ask you one more social media question. We've kind of missed on this one. And I log in about once a month and I approve the requests of people that want to be, I don't know what they call it, their connections or whatever. LinkedIn. What is your perspective on LinkedIn? I don't do anything with it.
I have never liked LinkedIn it just seems too clunky for me. I don't know. It's just not as smooth. I got Facebook instantly. I got Twitter. It took me a while to get Instagram, but I've never gotten LinkedIn. It's just it's a really strange spammy thing where people are trying to connect for business purposes. I've not enjoyed it, but I do post my blog on it now every day just to have some exposure there. I see you on it every day. It shows me you, but I think
I do the same thing as you. If I do a blog post, it goes directly to LinkedIn, but I don't participate on it. I don't log in on any regular basis. I'm not saying that to be like a nasty to LinkedIn, but I kind of agree with you. Clunky is a good word. And I think also, you're right. It seems like most of the focus on LinkedIn, it's either people that want to advertise a job or look for a job. It really seems to be that's what the focus is.
Yeah, I've heard it's great for connecting. People run ads. Actually, if they want jobs, they can advertise to executives in the companies they want to work for. So, I heard it's a platform, like you said, for connecting jobs. I mean, I get a lot of people going with business offers on messages, but I always turn them all down. I mean, it's a really aggressive move for a business on there is what I've seen. So I have not enjoyed that at all.
We started with social media, and as we wind down here, are there any other pieces of wisdom that you see about social media or any other platforms that you haven't mentioned that have been really interesting to spread your message, or new things that you're doing or seeing?
I think it's important that everybody go on and get themselves a presence on social media. I think it's the next big opportunity, from the .com stocks to creating your own website to the podcasting, which I think you got in so early. You've dominated that. All these different opportunities have come along. I think the current opportunity is everyone building their own brand on social media. There's guys that are worth hundreds of millions of dollars that are doing that right now, that I see all the time. I mean, if people that are multimillionaires are building online presence, I think it's good for everybody, even if for your own career. People are looking at your Facebook when you go get a job now. People are looking you up online to see who you are. I think this is an unprecedented time in history to build your own personal platform through social media so you can do whatever your goals are in life. I would encourage everybody to do that and just be yourself. Find your tribe and share what you love with everybody and find the people that are like-minded.
I forgot to ask one. YouTube. What's your view on YouTube? I know YouTube has been hugely successful.
It's the world's biggest video search engine. It's the second biggest search engine in the world after Google itself. And there's people making a nice living just on YouTube alone. I mean, I've never been a video guy. I've done some videos on there training with screenshots. Not really my thing, but it is probably the biggest social media platform in a way. I think it's actually giving a network television and Netflix problems now because the quality of YouTube has just gone up so dramatically over the years. I spend a lot of time on there learning whatever I want to learn too.
Yeah, it's all fascinating. I find a conversation with you fun because there's the trading part, but then you really are somebody who's become a master of the social media part. So I find that interesting, that I can kind of take you down both paths. We can talk about how new traders perceive things. We can kind of go back in time, connect some dots, have debates about drawdown, but then we can also talk about, from a business strategy standpoint, from an entrepreneurial standpoint, what's going on with social media. And I find that fun.
Yeah, I really enjoy social media. It's been really fun. I never would have thought I would have had that big of a following in my wildest imagination. It's been pretty incredible and fun.
Do you sleep 8 hours a night?
Yes, I actually do. I don't. I really try to compress all my time into doing that in one good big lick, and then automate some blog posts later for different time zones for India and Great Britain and stuff. But I try to limit my time. It actually looks like I'm on there all the time, but it's not as much as it looks like.
Your newest book, Steve, The Ultimate Trading Risk Management Guide, is available now, I assume, on Amazon as a Kindle. You can get it right away, right?
Yes, Kindle, paperback, and Audible. Been one of the more popular books I've written. I was very surprised to have that much interest in risk management, but people might have had some lessons in the fourth quarter.
There you go. Hey, Steve, where is the best place that people can go to find you? Now, you've just mentioned about 15 million different social media presences. And if they can't find you, it's actually a pretty good filter. If you can't find Steve Burns right now associated with the word trading, if you can't find him, maybe Steve doesn't want you to find him, because you're pretty easy to find.
Yeah, newtraderu.com is with the letter U. NewTraderU is the website. It has all the social media on there you ever wanted.
Steve, I appreciate your time today. Thank you for dealing with my nasally, who knows what sounding voice, but hopefully it won't sound that bad.
Not bad. I think I did well with my allergies too, so I think we pulled it off.
Steve, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, Michael.
I see a time when those awake will understand how to make money in up, down, and surprise markets. Whether new trader or experienced, college student or financial advisor, protecting against a crash or just trying to make a lot of money, trend following offers everyone an answer in uncertain times. To get started immediately, send me an email, michael@covel.com. I will send you the right trend following steps to take along with my free video. But if you want to buy and hold, trust the government and trust Wall Street, this is absolutely not for you.